Hey everyone, so I am an expat who has been living in Seoul, South Korea for multiple years, and we're gonna talk about Korean sunscreen, which has been blowing up on the internet lately, like really blowing up, and we're gonna talk about whether or not it's kind of worth it. And a lot of people on the internet claim that Korean sunscreens are living in the future, or something like that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but I'm also going to talk about why you shouldn't be taking your sunscreen recommendations from influencers. And I'm not an influencer, but I'm not giving people sunscreen recommendations either. And how I'm going to talk about how the algorithm and influencers are ruining sunscreen. So let's start. So I'm going to give my personal opinion on sunscreen first. And I want to start by saying that this is not like a conspiracy video. So I am going to complain about the labeling in America and fake sunscreens that are sunscreens that might be fakes that I could have ordered online, and why I don't order my sunscreen online because of fakes. But this is not a conspiracy video. I do think like sunscreen works. I'm not against chemical filters in sunscreen unless I'm putting them on my face. I actually think chemical filters are great for people who aren't allergic to them. So I'm gonna start by saying that I have very naturally pale skin and sensitive skin. So I am very susceptible to sun damage, which is perfect because I'm going to talk about why skinfluencers shouldn't be giving suggestions based off of their preferences, especially on sunscreen, which is a FDA regulated product and it's not just the cosmetic like makeup. And skinfluencers and influencers shouldn't be trying to give sunscreen recommendations to diverse audiences as well. And I'll really get into that, how that just doesn't work. Like one sunscreen cannot work for everybody, and I'll get into that later. So for me personally, there are two things that I need from a sunscreen. So first, I need mineral UV filters. There are two mineral filters that sunscreens use. It's called zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. I know this because I am so pale and have sensitive skin, and I'm allergic to chemical filters. The chemical filters, I don't know all the names of. There's a bunch of names, and I mostly look for, I should look out for them, but I mostly look for this label of mineral filter on the sunscreen. Although sometimes they do add sunscreen boosters in there. So again, and this has burnt me in the past, so I know I should be more careful, but I'm just a girl. I'm just a person, so I mostly look for what I want in the sunscreen, and I look for ones that are okay for sensitive skin. With that being said, the other kind of UV filter is called chemical filters, although I think they're technically both chemicals. I don't know how they got that name, and maybe because they're like, one is like mineral, like natural, and like one is like made in a lab. I don't know. Both of them are fine and work, and neither one of them is dangerous for you in a sunscreen. That's why it goes through FDA testing, as long as you don't buy fakes. So the other thing that I need from a sunscreen is I need it to only be a sunscreen and be a sunscreen. So not a makeup, not a skincare serum. For everyday use, I need it to be just a top layer that evenly coats my skin and sticks to my face and stays in place on my face while blocking UV rays. And that's like generally what a sunscreen is supposed to do. And you'd be surprised how many sunscreens don't really seem to focus on this. So even though I am pale, I also do need the sunscreens to absorb into my skin and like blend in with my skin tone enough so that people can't tell that I'm wearing a mineral sunscreen. And it doesn't sound important, but it is, because when I was in college, like my second summer, I was like working out. No, both summers I was working outdoors, and one summer I used like I think it was a CeraVe outdoor like only mineral sunscreen, and it was like really matte, and you could just see the top layer of like zinc on my skin, like white, and like people would make fun of me, and I felt really embarrassed. So because of these preferences, my sunscreen recommendations would not be helpful to everyone. Like my favorites are not going to be everybody's favorites. For example, my boyfriend prefers this over all of the other sunscreens, even Korean sunscreen, despite the fact that he's Korean. So yeah, this one really does like work for shades into like light, like my skin, into Asian skin. It still like blends in pretty well. I don't love it because it is a little bit watery, and so it makes me a little bit nervous that I'm not using enough or that I have to use 2 layers. But he likes it, and I'm happy that he has one that he likes. And like I mentioned just now, the sunscreens that Korean people might be using, these are not like that popular sunscreens to be honest, but might not be good for every demographic out there, especially since Korean people tend to not burn easily all the time, and also like are always wearing UV blocking hats and umbrellas and clothing. So for a while, even while living in Korea, this was my daily face sunscreen, like even in the winter, because actually it sealed in my hydration that I needed for my dry skin. And also this could work for my boyfriend on like days that we go outside a lot, because this actually does absorb into skin like at least up to, it's a mineral sunscreen, but at least absorbs into skin through like medium Korean level deepness or darkness. So I don't want to speak again like why my recommendations probably wouldn't work for everyone. I don't know if this works on every skin tone, but it didn't make my boyfriend's skin tone look gray or white cast, so he didn't mind it. It's just a little bit greasy for his skin type, but again, like it's better to have more SPF and just to use like a powder over top than it is to have like a lower SPF, and that's like factual. That's not a recommendation. So like I said, for a while this was my go-to and I really liked it despite living in Korea. I had tried out some Korean sunscreens, but this one was better. Then this one was better, and there's some reasons for that, because some of the Korean ones for sensitive skin have like tea tree oil, which is not always great for sensitive skin. So if you look at this is a sunscreen. It's just a sunscreen. If you look at the ingredients, it's like minimal ingredients. If you want to look at an example of what other mineral filter sunscreens can look like, including like CeraVe was like this, the ingredients list can look like this compared to this. These are the inactives, and so they're just too active. So you know, this is also what Cetaphil CeraVe looked like, the one that was like matte and like made me look like a white cast. So this one is just a sunscreen. It doesn't have any special skincare ingredients in it. It does just that. It did sink into my skin. It did stick to my skin. And you do have to wait 15 minutes. Whether or not you're using any mineral sunscreen, you have to like just put it on your face, wait at least 15, sometimes 20 minutes. This one took 20 minutes. Let it dry, and then come back and then like see if it's sunk into your skin very well. That's how you know if it's gonna leave a white cast or not. And you have to wait 15 minutes whether you're using a mineral sunscreen or a chemical filter sunscreen. They both will say on the packaging, wait 15 minutes before going out into the sun. There's a reason for that. It has to dry onto your face, basically. It has to dry. So this one has 8% titanium dioxide and 10% zinc oxide, and this is the highest of both out of anything I've seen. And that while this is sold in America, it is Australian style, so that's probably why it has the most percentage. So they're trying to go off Australian standards, although this probably doesn't quite meet Australian standards, but I like it. I think it's like pretty close to that. And it is very like waterproof and sticks to your skin very well. Like you don't have to worry about it moving on your skin even if you're wearing a mask, which is why I used it for so many years. That's why it was my go-to. Of course, this is not like a recommendation that would work for everybody, and some people would probably hate this so much that they would stop wearing sunscreen, I guess. So, you know, not a good recommendation for those people. But I'm going to talk about how confusing it can be to look at the active ingredients on the American sunscreens and the Korean sunscreens. Because Korean sunscreens don't tell you percentages, American ones do, but the SPF ratings are super confusing, and I'll just get into that later in the video. So before I found this, when I was still living in America, I actually used this. This was my everyday basic face sunscreen, not for like the beach obviously because it's like 30 SPF. And now this is a brand that I found from perusing at Target, which is a store in America, and they have some fancy packaging here, but they are a little bit on the crunchy side sometimes, with weird marketing like organic or something like that. But this was a sensitive skin sunscreen, to be honest, and it worked well for my sensitive skin. It had like shea butter and just moisturizing ingredients. It didn't have titanium dioxide, but when I bought it I didn't even know that there were 2 ingredients possibilities in the like active, like to be honest I still don't understand how it works, but it is 30 and it has 16% zinc oxide, which is also like higher than some others. So what does this sunscreen have in common with this sunscreen? they both don't really exist anymore, or they've been discontinued or changed. So I'm not exactly sure how much changing this brand did to this specific sunscreen, but they did a whole rebranding and repackaging and maybe some reformulating, probably like they're going paraben free because people hate parabens in America. I'm not sure if they changed the sensitive one for obvious reasons. Sensitive skin is sensitive. When I went on their website, it looked like the ingredients hadn't changed much, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't reformulated. But Pacifica, despite making this product that was really great for sensitive skin and UV protection like on a daily basis, they completely removed it. And I looked at their website, and now their UV protection section is filled with mostly like foams and watery serum type options. Now, I am not a doctor or a chemist, and sometimes they don't even agree on things, but they do both tend to agree that the way a sunscreen coats your face is very important. So that's why I do 2 layers of this. So your skin has natural bumps and ridges, no matter how small or pretty your pores are. You do have these like kind of like small bumps and ridges on your skin. That's the way skin is. And so a sunscreen to work needs to fill the ridges and then cover the bumps. So that's why I tend to do 2 layers of this, because the more watery it is, the more you actually have to put on. And this actually happens on a microscopic level too, so it's not really something that you can just see with your naked eye. That is also the reason that I'm not really into the serum type sunscreen. The second reason I'm not really into the serum type sunscreens is because they'll market themselves as a UV serum, not a sunscreen, and that makes me worried that they don't have to follow the same standards as a sunscreen or a sun cream, which to have those labels you have to follow FDA standards in Korea and in America and Australia and wherever. So I do worry if it's not called a sun cream or a sunscreen, is it following the same standards? If it's not meant to be the top layer of sun protection. So that's why I can be skeptical of these like serum type products. The other reason I don't like them is, again, they tend to just be like chemical filters, so they don't really work for a lot of people. A lot of people are sensitive and allergic to the chemical filters. I'm not the only one. And also, people can become sensitive and allergic, especially like if you're just putting this, you're freshly washing your face and then you put this directly on your bare, fresh washed skin. So that's the reason I don't like the water type serums. Let's talk about foams now. I recently visited a popular store in Seoul called Tier, and I noticed that they also had some foaming and some watery sunscreen products as well. I noticed that their foundations also have SPF. I think if you're using all of their products, you're probably getting enough SPF, but I don't know. I'm not like an expert. And it depends on how much you put on. And while the Tier one didn't seem too bad, and when I rubbed it into my skin, it did just kind of feel like a regular sunscreen. It didn't even feel that light, which some people really like, to be honest. I am kind of against the foaming sunscreen for 2 reasons. So 1, foaming washes can be great, but people still complain that they can be like harsh, and those are ingredients that wash off your face. So I imagine the foaming ingredients could be harsh on somebody's skin, and you're like leaving it on your skin all day and going out in the sun maybe, which could make it more sensitive. My other complaint is, of course, that it's hard to measure. It feels like you're putting so much on your skin. It could help some people put more on their skin if they're the kind of people who don't like sunscreen, but I feel like for some people it could make them feel like they're putting on so much sunscreen when they don't. So I don't think it's, at this point, my stance is not like super into sunscreen foams. These foaming sunscreens particularly remind me of Orencia and their like whole marketing campaign when they released their face wash, which I think is like a new thing. And people were getting these giant bowls of like mochi cleansers and like punching them and then like slapping like all this cleanser on their face. Like, it's a huge waste, but it made for some entertaining content online, and it did get a lot of attention. And a lot of people decided to try out the cleanser to know if it was that sticky, etc., etc. I think a lot of companies are hoping that the foaming sunscreen will get the same reaction online. And I keep talking about having a sensitivity or allergy, so I want people to know what that feels like so that they don't stop using sunscreen because they're using a chemical filter that they're allergic to. So what does it feel like? How do you know if you're allergic to chemical filters? You'll know because you'll be wearing chemical filter sunscreen and your skin, it could be your arms or your face, it feels prickly and a little bit stinging and a little bit itchy. Kind of like the Riedel shot, to be honest. Which is why I don't trust the Riedel shot, because I'm like, it feels like an allergic reaction. So that's what sensitivity feels like for anybody who might be curious. It's important to know because if you have sensitivity, you want to stop using that product because for me, it caused me so much acne for so many years. I didn't realize that my daily moisturizer had a chemical UV filter in it for a long time. Of course, my other worry is that it could deter people from using sunscreen altogether if they're always seeing burning and itching. Oh, and I have another sunscreen trend pet peeve that causes nice sunscreens to change their formula. And so that is the companies trying to put in excessive amounts of skincare actives or like partially active kind of ingredients into the sunscreen. And I'm thinking like common ones are tea tree, hyaluronic acid, niacinamide, PDRN, vitamin C. Those are ones off the top of my head, and they all can be so drying or irritating to like top layer, or they can just not be something you want in your sunscreen. Like they could destabilize your sunscreen. I also wonder if the foaming sunscreen gets like destabilized as well. I didn't mention that earlier. So yeah, but when they can say, oh, this is like 20% niacinamide sunscreen, people are like, I love niacinamide. Let me put that on top of all my other niacinamide products. That's crazy. That's so sensitizing to the skin. So I'm not really into that. I'm into like letting people choose their own skincare and then just putting a basic sunscreen over top. Thinking like, you know, like this or Supergoop. That's kind of my thing. Yeah. I have an example of a time where I did take skinfluencer or skin influencers advice about a sunscreen, and this sunscreen also won like Allure awards that year, like beauty awards in America. It was called like a hero sunscreen, and it was this one. If I can find it, I'll show you a picture. That brand has completely died out. I think their products had really good ingredients but weren't formulated that well, and basically yeah, this sunscreen had seemingly great ingredients, but you know, it felt like clay on my skin. It dried out my skin and broke me out. And it was also green, which was supposed to cover up rosacea, but it gave me rosacea, and then the green actually just amplified it, and I just looked horrible. So I was so angry I threw it away. I don't even have the bottle. And like I said, this was based off the recommendation of an influencer, and I checked the ingredients and they seemed to be great. So I feel like this influencer didn't really use a sunscreen that much, which is something I'm gonna mention again later. Again, like one of my biggest things in 2025 is niacinamide. I already mentioned that. And my other thing in Korean sunscreen is like menthol, peppermint, and tea tree oil. I'm so tired of them because they can be so sensitizing for skin. But the cooling sunscreen is like all the rage because, you know, we're heading into climate change. It's so hot in Korea, hotter than it's ever been, and so people are trying to stay cool, and I get that, but I just don't like it for my sunscreen. And again, in 2025, we have niacinamide, tea tree oil, and tea tree oil everywhere, and they're both calming but also irritating to the skin. And also, we don't need them in our sunscreen because then that just means that the formulators are adding like more stabilizers to the sunscreen to make everything work together. And if you have sensitive skin like me, then the stabilizers could be like sensitizing as well as active ingredients. So basically, I think sunscreen should be pretty plain and just try to work as like a great top layer and protect against the sun. It doesn't really need niacinamide. Although later I will mention one of the sunscreens I've been using the most has a lot of niacinamide in it, and I've been worried about that, but it seems to be okay. Also, it has a lot of ingredients, so but it seems to be okay. I'm gonna explain all of the sunscreen I have with me later. So now we're quickly gonna go through all the reasons why influencers shouldn't be influencing sunscreen specifically, except for maybe like doctors and chemists, but even then people will do anything for clickbait, so I don't trust it. But really, like non-professionals, even makeup artists, should not be influencing sunscreen because it's like a medical product, in my opinion. So here's the first thing, and this is all also algorithm based. So one, they rarely apply it correctly because the algorithm doesn't like that it's boring, and they never wait for 15 minutes, and they never just come back after 15 minutes and see what it looks like. No, they also never show it at the end of the day. What does my skin look like? How many times did I have to reapply, etc., etc.? How often did I go out into the sun? Things like that. And so I don't like it. I recently watched a video of a girl who's like, how long does it take? She tests out sunscreens. How long does it take for the sunscreen to soak into my skin? And she's going like this and taking the time lapse, and it's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, this time. And I'm like, actually, rubbing your sunscreen too much, they're also giving bad advice because rubbing your sunscreen too much makes it lose SPF. And the wait time was always 10 to 15 minutes because that's how long it takes sunscreen to absorb into your skin. And mineral sunscreen looks white until 10 to 15 minutes. So basically, like, just not only misinformation, but if you rub your sunscreen for 10 to 15 minutes, you're actually starting to lose SPF. You're breaking down the sunscreen. Especially in Korean sunscreen, one of the trends these days is easy wash sunscreen, which I hate because it is so humid and hot in Korea that you'll sweat the easy wash sunscreen off so fast. I also hate sports sunscreen because it's really bad for sensitive skin. Um, it can be really harsh, so I need something in between that, like this one. But on the same note, I noticed in the videos the skinfluencers tend to be overly invested in the experience of it all, in the skin feel, which is honestly so much less important for sunscreen, which is like a medical product, like I said. It's not like a face mask, which can be a face mask or a bath bomb or something like that, which sometimes the experience can matter to some people. I think skin feel and experience are really secondary to the product actually working without irritating or breaking out your skin, and being able to put enough of the product on that it works. That's another pet peeve I have with the niacinamide. The amount of sunscreen that you have to put on is a lot more than like a serum or a moisturizer. So if you have like 10% niacinamide like this one, which makes me worry, I use it but I get worried about it. Then of course I worry about that. And again, skinfluencers, they never put on enough sunscreen, like for multiple, like you will never see them put on like enough sunscreen to really test it out for like a full month. They might use it for a day. And if you put some niacinamide, a little bit of niacinamide on your face for like 2 days, you're not gonna notice if it's gonna sensitize your skin, you know? So that's my thought. And especially with makeup skinfluencers and other skinfluencers, they're always testing out products and they never test it out for more than a week. And with sunscreen, you want something like you're gonna use one sunscreen, maybe 2 sunscreens all summer, or you have like multi-purpose, like I have like a body sunscreen and face sunscreen, or this is my makeup for the summer. So like you know, but like we use like one in the summer, we don't like change them out every week, so we don't really know the long-term effects of it. When we watch an influencer's video, they only tested it out like twice and they will be like, yeah, I use this like once a week. That doesn't tell us anything. And they also don't always go out into the sun with it, so we also don't know demographics. So different people have different needs, and so like this works for at least up to my boyfriend's skin tone, maybe even slightly darker, but it may not work for every deeper skin tone, and it works still for a good chunk of people. The company needs to add a new product, not necessarily take away a good product, if that makes sense. Or just because a product doesn't work for one group of people doesn't mean that they need to take it away, basically. And here's how the algorithm's really ruining things. So instead of, say, like I said, adding a new sunscreen to Pacifica, they took away their sensitive skin sunscreen, which by the way, like did absorb into the skin, so it would work on deeper skin tones. But this is like one of the only sunscreens that was really suitable for like daily use of sensitive skin. But of course it's also 30 SPF, and these days people are like obsessed with SPF labeling, and companies are just trying to make these like one size fits all kind of viral products, and that just really doesn't work when you're making sunscreen. Some people need high SPF on some days. Some people might only need 30 SPF and they need one that like doesn't sensitize their skin on other days. But I'm lucky because at least in Korea there are some troublesome trends, but at least all the brands have a chemical sunscreen and a mineral sunscreen, so I'm still in the clear. The serious brands do have a mineral option, so I'm still lucky on that. In America, I think the company Supergoop is a pretty good example of what companies should do, like making like a real sunscreen and a wide range of products instead of just trying to make a one size fits all one product, which is probably cheaper for the companies to make a viral product like that. But let's be real, it's not realistic because everybody has like different skincare needs. Also, these kind of skinfluencers will go off buzzwords like niacinamide and tea tree oil and stuff like that, and there's like no room for nuance and inclusion. And so just because a sunscreen doesn't work for one person doesn't mean it won't work for me. And just because something works for me doesn't mean it will work for another person, if that makes sense. So something I've seen is like some of these influencers and skinfluencers being like, oh, I keep trying mineral sunscreens, but I'm not trying them anymore because like they all dry out my skin. Well, that's not my experience. And this was also like another like pale person, so this wasn't somebody of a different demographic. So like I saw a skinfluencer and she said these things and I was like, oh, that's really unfortunate because I don't want companies to stop making mineral sunscreens because I at least need them. and it's not because I think the chemical filters are bad, it's because I'm allergic to them. So that kind of like non-inclusive, no nuance attitude is like really a problem, I think, and that's why we're getting these just goofy kind of foaming like watery sunscreens that are like, what are they even doing? Or like people being like, you can like layer each level of your sunscreen, but in reality you don't need to do that. You can just put on one sunscreen. I do like in Korea that face sunscreen is a big thing. Every company has a face sunscreen, so that is like a thing I like about Korea. The things I like about Korean sunscreen are actually not the reasons that they're viral. They're viral usually because they have like snail mucin or like rice protein or something like that, which again is like weird, or like a good skin feel. The ones I have don't even have those things. Like the ones that I have and use I like for other reasons, and the reason I like Korean sunscreen is just because it exists basically. Like in America, a lot of face sunscreens don't really exist. Back when I bought this was like one of the few options, and one of the few options that would like work into the winter seasons as well, because in college you just spend a lot of time walking around outside. I also have to wonder if this is like a byproduct of cancel culture, that like this is happening with the brands. Like one girl online can say, I stopped buying all mineral sunscreens because they dry out my skin. I only use chemical filters from Korea now, or I only use chemical filters from, at one point like the chemical filters from France were really popular in America too. So I do feel like it's like part of the cancel culture that somebody might say like, oh, I've never used a good mineral sunscreen, and then like the company will stop making mineral sunscreen. On the other hand, some like crunchy moms are like making their own sunscreens, and then the companies are like, oh, let me make a beef tallow sunscreen that like crunchy moms will buy. You'll see that a lot on iHerb these days. So again, like, it's just crazy. It's just another reason why I think influencers shouldn't be recommending sunscreen, because like I said, it really, at the end of the day, it's a medical product more so than other skincare items. And my kind of last reason is fakes. Like, if you can't shop it in a person, it might be a fake. And even good online retailers like have fakes these days. I think I might have gotten a fake sunscreen from a generally very reliable website recently, and so that really like shook my view on where I can get sunscreen from. So that's also why like the skinfluencers get this stuff mailed to them directly from the companies. So if you can't like go out to the store and buy it, then it might not be worth like using the influencers like link, because the link, even if it seems to be from the company, could be fakes. You can like look it up, but the fake skincare is like a big problem on the internet these days, and it makes me worry. So basically, like, these viral moments and skinfluencers are causing companies to try to make formulas that adhere to what's popular with the algorithm, not necessarily like what's good and what works. And so we're getting these weird, confusing formulas that's like super lightweight, foaming, cooling, whitening, like niacinamide, like formula, UV blocking serum, which is the other thing. I don't trust sunscreen unless in Korea it says sun cream and in America it says sunscreen. Everything else maybe doesn't have to meet the standards or can like label 50 SPF, but you're not really putting a spoonful of it on your face, so it's not really 50 SPF, like that kind of thing. Like this is technically 50 SPF. It's really only good for reapplication. I understand like companies can get away with a lot based off of words. Like this one's called a cooling sun stick, so it's like a cooling stick, and it's a sunscreen stick. This one's called like a cooling aloe stick, sun stick, not a sun cream stick or something like that. So I think that maybe I do worry how much SPF it actually has, like how ethical it is. That's why I don't use it too seriously. Also, I haven't had an allergic reaction yet, but we'll see. And to be honest, the more the companies try to make a one-size-fits-all, like one product, the more they're making it not work for more people, basically. So like that's the irony of it all. I think it's better like make at least a mineral version and like a clear version, or at least better to go the Korean way, to at least make like a makeup version and like a sunscreen version and have like a mineral. I don't have the chemical, but a lot of companies have a mineral and chemical option, and I think that's really like the way to go. In America, like I said, Supergoop is seemingly pretty good on that channel. They have mineral options. I haven't been able to use Supergoop, but they have mineral options and they have clear options that are not too watery. So yeah. So now I'm going to talk about all of the sunscreens I have with me, some of which might be fakes. So I did get these off of iHerb, which is supposed to be reliable, but I heard that like fake scammer people are getting really good at their job these days and getting like more abundant. And so I'll explain why I'm not sure if I got a fake in a little bit. But yeah, so I'll start with this. So I do use this a lot because it is one of the only Korean sunscreens. So basically I can't get this anymore. So like this one, I can't use it. It's like empty bottle. So this one I decided to try out first, and this one does seem to be the most sunscreen vibe out of all of them. Like when I looked at the texture, it's not super thin, although it does work for the face. Because I do have some body sunscreens that don't work for the face the same way like this one worked for my face. So this one it sticks to my face pretty well. If you wear a mask, it pills up into like little balls on your face, so that's not great. It comes out blue, it turns white, which stops your skin from looking gray, but it does like kind of whiten your skin, which I guess some Korean people might like. It might look better on Asian skin, but I do think it blends into it like absorbs into the skin. This is the only Korean sunscreen I could find that had both mineral filters. So it had zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. Also, very high up on the ingredient list, like very high up, it has niacinamide, which makes me a little bit worried, but my other products don't seem to have niacinamide in them, so I seem to be doing fairly well for now. But I don't love that it's in here because, like I said, they added so many more ingredients, and it makes me worried that I would be allergic to, for example, some of the cross polymers. I'm just like a little bit worried that I could become sensitive to some of the ingredients, and I think that there could be so sometimes Korean sunscreens are like mainly mineral sunscreen, but they also have some chemical filters in them. I'm not that well versed on chemical filters, especially because of more and more coming out. So I do worry that it could have a few chemical filters, but I haven't been breaking out with this. My only issue is that when you wear it with a mask, like I do because people go out when they're sick, I have this, and it's from the brand Etude, which is interesting because I didn't even know that they had a sunscreen. Also, the name is kind of stupid because it's called Soon Jung Director's Mineral Filter Sunscreen. Don't know who that is or what that means or why should I care that it's that person's a sunscreen. Okay, the next one I have is also from a makeup brand, Amuse. I did do a video on this. I use this in a place of makeup, and that's about it. It doesn't quite match my skin tone perfectly. Also, it takes longer than 15 minutes to dry, but I think it's pretty good. It's lightly scented. The scent doesn't seem to bother me too much because it seems to be mostly coming from aloe. It has a lot of these do have aloe in them, like pretty high, like they almost have like similar ingredients. Yeah, so I've been wearing that instead, and luckily this one also has kitty on it. Okay, this is a sunscreen stick, but actually the main one that I use this is a refill. The sunscreen stick is in my bag. So this one is actually not a mineral filter as I usually look for, but I only use it on my legs or arms when I'm running late. This one is a mineral sunscreen. It's one of the only ones I found that also has titanium dioxide along with zinc oxide, and this is the mineral option. They had a chemical filter option too, but of course the amount of sun protection you can get from one of these is pretty low, so I'll never use it as anything more than a re-application of sunscreen. I don't know how it mixes with my other sunscreens, and it does have quite a strong smell. So the smell kind of smells like soapy, similar to the cleanser I use for my makeup brushes every now and then, which I bought and I said I was going to use all the time and I never cleaned them. But anyway, it kind of smells like that. So I imagine it's there, like there is like some kind of soap in here to keep the sponge clean, and that's what the smell is coming from. This gave me a little bit of acne. It doesn't feel the best on my skin, but I'll use it similarly to this one probably. So yeah, it was really expensive too, but so cute, and you can like keep the packaging. I know it doesn't have like 3D packaging, but it has better packaging than some of the Olive Young items. It's official Sanrio, and you can only get this one in Korea, so sorry about that. This one is very popular, was recommended to me by a friend and not an influencer, and so I decided to get it. By the way, all of the sunscreens come with 2 in a pack, so they end up not being too expensive. This one is okay, a little bit greasy, but it does absorb into the skin a lot. This is falling into the category of having a little bit too many like actives. Like I'm pretty sure it has tea tree oil and like all this stuff in it. So I do find I tend to break out a little bit. My skin doesn't look the best the day after using this sunscreen, but it's not terrible. So to my American sunscreen, so I went over this, but basically it's zinc oxide and shea butter are kind of the reasons I bought it. It kind of smelled good. Oh, by the way, I'll get to smell. So this one smells like tea tree oil. This one is unscented, but it has kind of a unusual smell that I haven't really smelled in a sunscreen, almost a savory kind of smell. But it's not too off-putting, and it does disappear after you put it on your skin. The smell is not like too bad, and I wouldn't want them to change it or try to cover it up because the sunscreen itself seems to be working shockingly good. This one I mentioned before for face and body was okay. A lot of people say it's too greasy. I think this one could easily just be used with a powder if you think it's too greasy. And sometimes I did get comments that my skin was like looking oily or something like that, but at the end of the day I really liked this, so yeah. Okay, so I've also been using this one since last year on my body because this one sometimes would get like on my clothing and I didn't always like that. So this one is a little bit drier of a formula. Again, we don't have too many inactive ingredients, and it does have titanium dioxide only 3% and zinc oxide 10%. So you'll remember this one is the best one. It has titanium dioxide 8% and zinc oxide 10%. So it makes sense that this would only be 30, right? But this one has, this is interesting. I know percentages aren't everything because there's also boosters I read, but this one has zinc oxide 16%, is 30 SPF as well. This one has zinc oxide 12%, is 50 SPF. So by the way, this is 16, this is 12. But their SPFs are different, which is a little bit confusing to me as a consumer. That's all I'm trying to say. I used it on my face once and it wasn't great or horrible, but it was too dry for my face. Like really matte things look really odd because I have oily skin, so they never like look quite right. Sorry, not because I have oily skin, because I have dry skin. So really matte things tend to look odd because I have drier skin. This is also for body, and it's weird because it says it's for sensitive skin, and it does say broad spectrum, which is good. Microbiome gentle, which feels like marketing. Water resistant to 80 minutes. Paraben and fragrance free. Fragrance free does matter to me. Paraben free doesn't matter to me so much. And it says prebiotics and vitamin E, much like this one. Okay, so we'll go to the face version. This is the Sheer like mineral face lotion, face liquid sunscreen. Sheer mineral face liquid sunscreen. It's not that sheer, by the way. Broad spectrum SPF 50 only has zinc oxide 12%. So it, weirdly enough, it's 50 broad spectrum and this is 30 broad spectrum, but this has more UV filters than this. And it says same thing. Formulated for sensitive skin, microbiome gentle, water resistant, 80 minutes. This one says ideal for use under makeup and vitamin E, but it doesn't say paraben free, so I wonder if they snuck parabens in there. Maybe that's why it's good. I don't know. Okay, but it has very similar ingredients to this. So, but these SPF ratings just confuse me a little bit. And so I bought the new one this year, and they seem to be the same. Although it was dirty when it came in the mail. And then I also decided to try out 50 this year. But I'm not sure if this one is fake or if the company is just really confusing. So I'll get to this in a second. So these have the same bottle, right? Like the same color. They're marketed as almost the same thing if you're just looking at it. But I'm not sure. So like this one has completely different ingredients listed. Also, it says it has ceramides in it. Like acetyl alcohol. It's acetophyll. So yeah. Acetyl alcohol is a good thing, but I'm surprised because this smells awful. It smells like BO, and it doesn't go away when you put it on, especially when you're putting it on your arm and your elbow pit here. Like you can smell it even over top of like if you spray perfume, you can still smell this. And I'm shocked because the ingredients are just so different, the inactive ingredients, and it actually has less. So this is 50, but it supposedly has less zinc oxide than this one. So this one has 10% zinc oxide. This one has 7% zinc oxide. This one has 3% titanium dioxide. And this one has 9%. So it has a bunch of titanium dioxide, which makes me wonder, is titanium dioxide important? Then why don't all these other sunscreens have it? Like, I'm very confused, to be honest. This is just my consumer complaining, I guess. So I'm not even sure if this is a fake because everything was printed off center on the bottle, as you can see, and then even back here is printed off center. The fronts also have different things here. So it says sheer mineral sunscreen, broad spectrum SPF 50 and 30. Formulated for, so this one says, formulated for sensitive skin, microbiome, gentle formula, nourishes sensitive skin while providing hydrating, chemical-free sun protection. So it's not chemical-free, it's chemical filter-free. And also it says water-resistant up to 80 minutes. Prebiotics plus vitamin E. And it makes me wonder if I got a fake. I'm very confused about like the differences because these are kind of supposed to be similar, but actually these are more similar. And I wondered why this smells so bad when this still has more. This has 8% titanium dioxide, did not smell bad. This has 9%, smells terrible. So I had to wonder, why does this one smell so bad? And usually I don't complain about smell, but I'm just skeptical that this could be a fake, and that's why I'm complaining about it. So I think I might have bought a fake, and so I have been careful not to trust this one too much. And also I wanted to use this on my face when I go like outside for a long time, but it leaves the most white cast out of everything. So, and it's super matte. You can see like the type of thing that it is here. It's just super matte. I don't know why I'm putting it on my skin now. It smells horrible. Not that you can smell what I smell through the screen, but yeah. So and as you can see, it does leave like a white cast here. It's really sheer, or not sheer, it's really matte. So I'll show you like how matte my arm becomes after putting this on, and then I have to put up with the smell for the rest of the day. I guess the smell's not too bad. It's a little bit, it's just a little bit bad. It's not like that bad, but you can see it doesn't really rub into the skin. It's hard to tell, but it doesn't like rub into your face skin. It doesn't absorb into your skin on your face very well. So I ended up not liking this, and so now I'm just like, I'll just wear a hat when I go outside. So I just wear the Korean ones, and I really put on a lot of the Korean ones, and when I go outside, or I put on 2 layers of this one, and I wear a hat and an umbrella, and that's how I've been protecting my skin, because I don't trust this one. I think it's a fake. I think it's like suspicious, especially the fact that they have slight differences here. I think it's very suspicious. So I think it's suspicious that only one of them says paraben free. Maybe this is the fake, because I have 3 from the same brand. So I'm just very confused about this situation. And that's basically my ending note. And of course, I'm not gonna end the video with a recommendation for you, besides to get like a recommendation from your doctor, and to just be careful when buying sunscreen and don't buy fakes like I might have. But if you made it this far in my super long video, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.